Kids today are growing up in an overscheduled, overstimulated culture. Academic pressure, competitive sports, a packed schedule of extracurricular activities, and constant pulls from their screens, whether it's social media, gaming, or binge watching. Meanwhile, about 40% of U.S. high school students report persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. But maybe the antidote to this problem is simpler than we think. More time outdoors as a path back to self discovery, meaning, and purpose. Today, you'll hear from a group of young but seasoned backpackers who will share how time in nature and time on the trail has shaped their lives and the takeaways they have for all of us. I'm Norma Flood, and I'm an integrative and functional nutritionist. Welcome to Go With Your Gut. Welcome, fellow backpackers. I'm so excited to have you all here today. Welcome, Abby, Fiona, Justin, and my son Carson. I'm excited to bring you all together today just to have this important discussion that I think everyone out there needs to hear. And I think what I'd like to do to just kind of warm us up is for each of you, if you could introduce yourselves so we know who is who. And at what age did you start really backpacking? And I'm not talking just about going for a walk on a trail, but when you were out in the wilderness.
I can go for it. Hi, my name is Abby Gant. I'm 22 years old. I'm a recent graduate from UC Santa Barbara, and I'm from Poway, California. I started backpacking right after fifth grade, and I joined the Poway Backpackers trip with Scott Reinhardt. And the first trip was 10 days long, and I'd never been on anything like that before. And it was truly life changing, and I've been backpacking ever since.
I'm Justin, and I grew up in the Bay Area in Walnut Creek, California, the East Bay. And my introduction to backpacking was very early. My dad was super into it during my upbringing. And I think I was three, maybe the first trip I went on. And it was in Point Reyes National Seashore, just north of San Francisco, to Sky Camp. And it was like a mile, and we picked blackberries. And I still remember like just having a feeling where I was like out in the woods, even though I'm sure we weren't too far away. But that was the introduction that I had to it, and from then we'd go every summer. And so I've been going my whole life, and it's been a part of me getting away from the real world or from society for a little while. So it's been a really great thing that my dad introduced my whole family to.
Wow, I'm Fiona. I'm 26 years old, and similar to Abby, I started backpacking the summer after fifth grade. So for me, I think that was 2011, and that was with the Poway Backpackers and Scott Reinhardt. My older brother had started doing it before me, so I got a little bit of insight into the whole 10-day trip ahead of time, which was nice, but it's been really fun since then, sharing backpacking with a lot of my friends and organizing trips with friends.
And Carson, how about you sharing that first experience?
Hi, I'm Carson. My first backpacking experience was with the Poway Backpackers as well. I did it the year before my freshman year of high school, and it opened me up to like the wilderness a lot. I was pretty nervous about going in the woods for like 10 days, but once I did it, I realized how amazing it was. Since then, I've done like a trip with some friends that Scott helped organize for us, and then I'm excited. I'm going on another one in a week from now in Alaska, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. So Carson's comment, um, about how he felt before that first time. So Justin, I'm sure you don't even remember what you felt as a 3-year-old, because as a 3-year-old, you're open to anything. You don't know what you don't know.
It's been a little while.
But Abby and Fiona, how did you feel going into that first backpacking trip? Were you nervous? Were you like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have phones, disconnected from everyone? How did that feel?
I was pretty nervous. I didn't have any really close friends that I was going on the trip with that year. My mom has always been really interested in backpacking and hiking and stuff like that, but I didn't have a lot of other friends whose parents were pushing them to do it. So I felt a little bit nervous going into it on my own, but I think at that point too, I had maybe just gotten my first phone, so it didn't feel too tough to leave the phone behind on that first trip either. But definitely nervous going into it.
Of course.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, "How am I gonna survive without my parents and my comfy bed at home?" I'd never been away from home that long either. And similar to Fiona, though, I don't think I had my first phone yet, which is maybe different from other kids today in 5th grade. But I still felt like I was maybe missing out, on things like, um, tennis practice throughout the summer or already things that were starting leading into middle school. So leaving for 10 days was a really big deal, but I'm so happy that I did it.
So, where this leads me next is, like you said, Abby, you mentioned, gosh, I'm going to be going away for 10 days. What about tennis practice? What about this? What about my usual schedule? And I think youth today have a schedule of an executive. It's like if you're not going to school, if you're going to sports, if you're doing extracurriculars, there's a lot more structured time today than there was when I was a kid and I was left to my own device in the woods and parents didn't know where I was half the time. But really, there's just so much more structured time. So, did any of you feel like you had a lot of unstructured time even at that age? Like in middle school, did you have time where you could just have nothing to do and find something to do on your own?
I can, answer that one for to start. I had a unique experience. I grew up across the street from an open space that continued for many, many miles, and so that was my playground after school a lot of the time. All the way through high school, I'd go out there with my friends, but it was, an opportunity to, like you're saying, escape from the schedule and to feel a little bit of independence and freedom from our parents at that age. I will say there was also a lot of schedule in my life. I had sports and extracurriculars and all the other things, but, I think maybe because of my parents were aware of that as a something important that they wanted to enforce. Sometimes if I was being annoying during the weekend, they'd tell me to go outside for a few hours and come back when you're tired. So I had a little bit of that experience, but, it's a little, different than I know a lot of people my age.
Yeah, you were lucky that your parents had more of that awareness at that time.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I feel like I was almost the complete opposite. Like every single thing that I was doing, even from when I was 10 years old, like in middle school, every decision mattered. I was already thinking about if my grades were going to affect the classes I would get into in high school, which would then affect the college that I was going to get into. And maybe that's just my own pressure that I'm putting on myself, but I also think it is, the culture today, in these really competitive schools in the US, and so, yeah, I was scheduled out with band and sports and Girl Scouts and, like, the list would go on, and, I think it was it was a lot of pressure for not even a teenager yet. So like you said, it's, like the schedule of an executive, but I felt like every single hour mattered.
Yeah, it's crazy how early it starts these days. Fiona?
Yeah, I think I fell somewhere in between Abby and Justin. I definitely had a lot going on as a kid, and I think having siblings too, or a brother who has other stuff going on, I felt like my poor mom's whole schedule became like driving us around to different sports practices and whatever we had going on outside of school. But I got involved in sports pretty young, so in middle school, I'd say I was still pretty busy with sports, just doing club teams. And then by the time I got to high school, it was a lot. Just playing sports year round through high school and then doing club teams on top of that, and then other extracurricular activities outside of that. So I feel like it was positive in a sense because then when I got to college, it helped me kind of adapt to needing really intense time management skills pretty quickly. But at the time, it also was a little bit easier in middle school and high school when your parents are kinda keeping the schedule for you, and it's kind of a no-brainer whether or not you're gonna be going to those practices. It's just kinda what you're doing, and, it's fun too when you have a lot of friends at practices, so lots of pros and cons, I would say, to both.
Yeah, it's not like everything is a bad thing, right? Some of this structured time is positive, and we do want to be purposeful with our time and intentional, right? It's just, finding that balance, right? Carson, how do you feel like it was at home?
Yeah, I remember especially the year that I did Poway Backpackers. I was going into freshman year, and that's when sports really were like straining my time. I remember like even just leaving an extra 10 days for the trip. I remember like sports like football would punish you for like missing 2 days or even one day, and yeah, I remember that. And even in other sports when I had like late practices, it definitely like strained my time like year round.
Well, especially sleep. I mean, I know I can speak for you on this, like lacrosse. Lacrosse is fun, but their last pick on the field time, and so your practices would be 7 to 9, you'd come home 9:30 at night and still have homework to do. You'd need another dinner, so yeah, so it can really throw the schedule off.
Yeah, but I definitely say the summer practices with football were the roughest because it limited like my ability to have those free weeks, free days of vacation and taking time off. And
Yeah, I mean, they do. They say, "Okay, these are the 2 weeks you have off in summer, and this is it." So the entire family has to work around someone's schedule, right? Like, "Oh, we gotta take our vacation exactly in these 2 weeks," and, Poway backpackers, it's like, "These are the dates. We can't accommodate someone else's needs." So, yeah, it's trying to find that balance. So, one thing I also wanna talk about having all this structured time, right? You don't really have much time for boredom. So when you were first stepping on the trail and there was no phone, there was no schedule, and it's just you taking step after step, what do those first 24 hours feel like when you're out in the wilderness away from everything? Is there a little bit of anxiety? Like, do you worry about anything or do you find yourself letting go pretty quick?
I I love that feeling, the getting out of the car, putting on the hiking boots, and getting the packs ready, and then 10 minutes onto the trail, you realize that it's gonna be a while, and every single hike I've ever been on, it feels that way, where you're excited, and then you realize, "Oh, it's just one step at a time." And, it's really good. I like that challenge, and I like to have a feeling of, like, this is what I'm doing for the day, and I don't have to weigh all the other responsibilities in the world. It's just me against this trail, and when I'm tired, I'll take a break. When I'm hungry, I'll have a snack. I like being down to those basics, but there's definitely some anxiety that you feel right at least that I feel right at the beginning of a hike where I'm not sure if I signed up for more than I asked for, but it always what goes well, but those first maybe few hours especially are a challenge. But you get to the first lake or the first view of the mountains, and at least it reminds me of why I chose to be out there.
It's like nature takes over.
Yeah, you get to listen to the birds and you get to be reminded that like the weather is important for your well-being and I don't know, like all these things that we can close ourselves off and put ourselves in a room and ignore the the nature that's around us at all times. But when you're in it, when you're experiencing it, it can be a really powerful experience. It reminds us that that's where we came from.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just piggybacking off of that, I think there's a little discomfort right in the beginning because you're having to sit with your own thoughts and or whoever you're along for the ride with, you can talk to them and or be in the silence and enjoy the nature. But day to day, I think we have so much like, I don't know about you guys, but I always have music on or a podcast, or you always have like constant flow of information being thrown at you. Um, and sometimes it's nice. I think sometimes it quiets my brain, but kind of in a unhealthy way because I'm not allowing myself to sit with my own thoughts and emotions and feelings. So I get on the trail and you kind of have to let go of all the busyness in your brain that's been going on day to day, and you kind of have to sit with your real thoughts. And it's really beautiful. I think after a little bit of time, you're on the trail, and like Justin was saying, all you have to think about is the next place that you're hiking to. And you don't have to worry about anything else in the world. And I think it's the place where I feel the most present because you're down to the basics. You're just thinking about what you're gonna have for your next meal, how you're gonna get water, how you're gonna go to the bathroom, um, and yeah, it's a little uncomfortable at first, but, after the first day, I think it's, like, the best thing you can be doing.
Right, it's like you brought up a good point there. It's I feel that at home or in the real world, whatever you wanna call it, I constantly have this to-do list in my head. Like, as soon as something's done, what's the next thing? Or thinking about something in the past or what I need to do in the future. And I'm sure like you said, you still carry that with you when you're starting out on the trail, but it seems that over time, that just kind of fades away.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely resonate with what Justin and Abby are saying. It's really nice to get back to, like, the simple, all I need is what I have on my back, and it can be a little nerve-wracking getting on the trail and hoping that you packed everything that you're gonna need, but it's also nice to just know that you don't really need that much altogether, and then I think one of my favorite parts too is just waking up with the sun and going to bed when the sun sets too. I don't know why, I feel like that's always a really good reset for my body.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Just following nature's kind of circadian rhythm instead of up late on your screen, right? Or homework, whatever it might be.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd say for the first 24 hours, it's a little nerve-wracking, especially like the first minute when you put on the pack and you realize like you have to carry it for 10 days. And you're like, "Oh, like this is a little bit heavy." Also, like, thinking about having to do stuff like use the bathroom or like looking at your bear can and being like, "Okay, I'm hoping this is all the food that I need." But yeah, once like the first day shaves off, like you just get used to it, and it's very like relaxing and peaceful, and you just find yourself doing just whatever you want out there, just exploring or whatever it is.
Yeah, just something like that, like, wow, I don't hear anything. It was just dead silence, and it's like you just don't get that sometimes. Well, ever. So, that's awesome. So, what I wanna know is if feelings of boredom did come up on the backpacking trips when you're out on the trail, were there times where it felt uncomfortable?
I'd say just about every hour of every day. I don't know if boredom is the word I would use. I think, like, a stillness in the world is, like, something that is just so unique in today's experience, but every single hour of every day. I usually end up playing games where I'll pick the bend in the trail and say, "I gotta hike to that point," and then I'll look up and see the view from there, or switchbacks, or, I don't know. I play all kinds of games. I also tend to like to have conversations with people, or if there's no one around, without people. So there are ways to fill the time. But I think something that I've realized about my time on the trail is that you start to go through your thoughts and they start to loop. You start to see patterns of the song that you can't quite get out of your head, or the conversation that you're winning against your sister that she's not there, or whatever the example is of what your brain keeps returning to. And it's a little meditative for me to like notice that instead of be stuck in it. I think it takes a few times around to realize that they're starting to repeat themselves. But when you get to that point and you can reflect on it, then it's an experience where it's like you're watching your thoughts pass through you instead of, like, feeling like you're so a part of it and you have to respond or react to them.
Right, and that's exactly like meditation. If anyone were to sit, that's what happens is these thoughts come in and then you just let them go and they go. And meditation is difficult, I find, and that's what I love about hiking is, you're just getting out there and stepping out into the wilderness, and it's just easier that way.
Yeah, I feel like it's so different, kind of like you were saying, at peace versus being in my childhood home sitting around. I could get bored kind of easily. And definitely as I got older, like phones filled that boredom a little bit. But I feel like going on the backpacking trips, like you're with 11 other kids, or now I'm with my friends and stuff. And it's become something that I really cherish. I don't really feel like there's a moment that I get bored out there because you're either exercising and kind of excited to get to camp or you're having good conversations with your friends. I feel like it's very different from when you're kind of sitting in your normal life and you have that to-do list going on in your head that you're talking about. And you're trying to sometimes procrastinate that. But just being out on the trail, I feel like having conversations, and especially when you're late in your hike and you're ready to get to camp and you're feeling a little delusional, those are some of my favorite memories with my friends.
Yeah.
I also something that I feel, changes in my mindset a bit on the trail is that I find myself being a lot more curious than I am in my day-to-day life, whether it's about the nature around me or just the conversations I am having with people. You have more time to ponder on things and maybe make hypotheses about why things are the way they are. And I found myself after a week-long trip having like a list of things that I want to go research because whether it's like how these crazy rocks were formed in the Yosemite Valley or like different photos I snagged of, like, pretty flowers that I saw on the trail, and I wanna go see what they are, but, so I guess there is a benefit of being home 'cause, sometimes you can gain some knowledge that way, but I think it's beautiful to be able to really sit with your thoughts and, um, talk with people about I don't know, I just think we're in such a rush, day to day, and so I don't have that level of curiosity in my day-to-day life.
Right. You don't have time to go as deep within yourself, or others.
Yeah, I think the boredom, it wasn't really like a boredom almost. It was like an opportunity to like focus on the little things, like what everyone else was saying, like your thoughts and like just digging into them. But also, I found myself just finding more joy in like little things, like looking at a rock or picking up a rock and trying to hit like a tree far away. Your brain like connects to the rhythm of your footsteps or something. Just all the little things become so much more like amusing. I think it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's like you're just having a better connection with yourself, and that kind of leads me to my next question or realization. I know for me, when I'm hiking, that's when I get inspiration because my mind stops reeling. I stop thinking because I'm always up here. And I think that the trail kind of brings us to our heart more, just more centered and grounded. And then that's when you can kind of, what I say, receive inspiration. But what you may all find, and I'd love to hear your perspective, do you find that you're able to think more deeply about things, about life, about the meaning of life, and even have deeper conversations with others? Your connections are deeper versus less hurried and less about what you're doing or what's going on. How would you respond to that?
I think the space that's created by not having all of those other forms of media and sensory detail, I think it allows for more contemplation. It's one thing that I've joked with Abby about before, but it seems to be true, is that when you're in the backcountry, the people who are also in the backcountry, you have at least one thing in common, and it's that you chose with your free time to be out there. And so oftentimes I'll have some of the best conversations with people I share the trail with or cross paths with. And it comes from a place of loving nature, prioritizing that in your lifestyle, which very few people do, and connecting over that. And so there you can have everything else not in common with a person, and that's a pretty good foundation to relate to people and learn about their history. Just an example that I'm thinking of right now is I was on a hike with my dad in Sequoia National Park, and we ran into these two hikers, and they were Chinese, and I don't know exactly from where, but they spoke Mandarin and very little English. and we were like best friends by the end of a lunch. We sat down by a creek bed and hanging out, sharing snacks and like making little jokes and whatever it was. He ended up taking a photo of us and got our email and sent it to my dad and I later, like a month later. And it was just a beautiful moment with somebody that I have almost nothing in common with, but in that moment we had everything in common. Like we were there together. And so I think there's just a beauty in like finding those similarities with people that we're in a world that's very divided, and it's divided over some very important things, but also some things that maybe are a little more arbitrary than we make them out to be. And it's nice to realize that when you're out in the open, when you're in the world like that, that you can relate to so many things before you get to the points that are contentious.
And what's interesting is you had such a deep connection with them, having that language barrier where they didn't even speak much English. It's
Yeah, yeah, but
amazing.
the shared experience was enough for us to know that we had something to connect about. And so, yeah, beautiful moment there.
I definitely do feel a more authentic connection with people that I've shared the trail with. Because like you just mentioned, a lot of interactions with friends on a day-to-day are through phones now. Or I lived in a house with 6 other girls in college, and most of our free time, um, you're kind of chit-chatting, but the TV is still on in the background, or people are running to and from different places, versus the people who I've been out in the backcountry with, whether or not I see them the rest of the year, like, on a day-to-day basis, um, I have a connection with them that, uh, pushes past, like, anything I've experienced, with connections in the real world, I guess is we're saying. I think because you have the space and the time to get deeper, and you're also experiencing something that's really special together. And also having to spend 24 hours a day with a person, you kind of see the ups and downs of the trail with them and problem solve and have to support each other as well. So it's the conversations you're having, but it's also the space that you're having them in. Like, I'm sure you can get to that point with somebody on a conversational level, sitting at a restaurant at dinner, but you're not spending those 24 hours, like, on the trail with them and having to, I don't know, um, problem solve where you're gonna find your next water source and, different things like that. So it's a different level of connection.
Absolutely. So there's so many great things that you learn on the trail. Tell me what you're able to take home in your lives from the trail day to day, how this really does make a difference in your day-to-day life outside of backpacking.
I prioritize walking in my day-to-day life, but I think it really does come from backpacking. Every evening I go for a walk of some sort. It's my way to separate my day from the night, or my work day from my evening if it's a work week. I probably got that from the trail, but it's something that relaxes me and gives me a little bit of an escape from being inside all day, if that's the case. The other thing that I think I would want to touch on is that I notice how how much is alive around me when I'm hiking. Every tree is a living being, and every plant beneath it, and all the birds and the bugs, and it's just everything is moving. And the closer you look, the more you see it. And I try to remember that when I'm in a concrete jungle of sorts, if I'm in San Francisco or in, I don't know, wherever you find yourself that's very developed. I try to remember that like there's an ever-present life that exists on planet Earth that we're so lucky to be a part of. It's always there in our backyard if we take the time to notice it and to appreciate it. And we depend on it. We get clean water from the Sierras. The water I drink from Lake Kachuma comes directly from the Sierra Nevada. So it's important to make the connection that we still rely on it just as much as ever.
Yeah. Important connection to nature. Absolutely.
I think one of my biggest takeaways is just kinda slowing down my life a little bit. Going from doing the backpacking trip every summer from summer after 5th grade through the end of high school for me, there's just kind of a really good reset every summer to appreciate nature, appreciate spending time outside, and I ended up having some really close friends through those trips, and then when I went away to college, I didn't have that as much. I was in San Luis Obispo, so I was in a really beautiful area and would go hiking and go to the beach, but it's just not quite the same as when you're out in the backcountry and you're dirty for 10 days straight and sleeping under the stars like we were on those trips. So I think after college, getting back into doing backpacking trips and especially as like a full-time adult career person now, it's really nice. It's kind of my ideal vacation to be able to get away from everything and go be out in the mountains with friends and just have some really, like, honest, genuine time with friends.
I just have a little thing, but I I've every year when I do go backpack over the summer, I think it's this reset like Fiona was talking about, where you're reminded to bring this peace and level of presentness into your everyday life. And I think I try to just prioritize getting outside, and it doesn't have to be for this huge, extravagant backpacking trip. It can just be for an afternoon, whether you leave your phone at home and go to the beach or go on a hike and just try to unplug. But you can also go on camping trips for just a night. Go car camp and try to reach that level of um, of being outside and being present. And
Disconnected from phones.
yeah, so it doesn't have to be as extravagant as a 10-day trip. You can prioritize just little things like that in your day to day.
So true.
I think it's helped me realize that removing distractions and sometimes during the day like helps me just connect more to like the real world. Like sometimes I'll be driving and I'll have no music and I'll just sit with no music and just think. Or I'll be on my phone and I'll be going somewhere. I'll be going somewhere and I'll like just leave my phone behind or um put it on airplane mode just so that there's no chance it can distract me. But yeah, just doing little things like that throughout the day, I've realized have helped me more with just feeling more connected.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like knowing that, learning that feeling that you get on the trail, how can you create those spaces? Like you, Justin, talking about just walking outside, or Carson putting your phone on airplane mode. I know for me, when I get the monkey mind, I just step outside sometimes. Like it's time to take the trash out. I'm going to walk outside, take out the trash, take the compost out, whatever, take the dog out, play catch with the dog. We don't recognize how we can fit little simple things to reset our mind.
Something that I remember just asking my dad when I was 5 years old on the trail with him, and we would be out for an hour or 2, and I'd be, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" And, you hear your kids say it in the car or whatever, and I still remember him saying yes every time and not really explaining it, but just, like, on the trail, "Are we there yet?" "Yep, we're here." And obviously we were talking about different things, but that point resonated with me for years and still does, that it's being out there, you're there. And I take that with me in my work. Like it's not about the completed project, it's about doing well in it and progressing and contributing to it. And I think about it in all my other avenues in life, that the journey is worth um partaking in, and that the end result, like camping at the end of a night, is just a part of it. It's not it's not the goal. The goal is just to be there and to be present and to be aware that you're enjoying yourself. And so anyway, just another thought that I try to keep with me.
I love that. It's the journey, not the destination, right? We hear that often and we don't really think about what that really means. So I just want to thank you all for being here today to really share a deeper side of yourselves, bringing that from the trail to everyone here, to all of our listeners. I think this is such an important thing for everyone to recognize, how important it is to find moments of peace and quiet, even if we can't get out into the wilderness, how we can add these moments in nature, even in our neighborhood. So, thank you again and have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But
Bye. Thank you.
I think our guest backpackers were able to share how their time on the trail filled the gaps where something was missing while calming the stress of daily life and creating better connections within themselves and others. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the photos they shared on the trail, and I've included a link below from Justin, which is a great podcast called Trails Worth Hiking, hosted by his father, Jeremy Pendry. Regardless, know that time in nature can happen in many different ways, regardless of your fitness level, and can fulfill much of what you feel is missing in your lives. It provides that space that we all need to breathe and connect to that deepest part of ourselves. I'd love to hear how you enjoy time outdoors. Please share in the comments below. And if you're only listening, head on over to my YouTube channel where you can share or subscribe to build the momentum needed to support better mental health and gut health. Until next time, be well.